Good evening. I'm calling this meeting to order. The time is precisely 5:30 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This meeting is officially open with a quorum present. This evening, our students from Greenbrier Elementary are here, and they will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. In just a moment, Principal Nicole Montalvo will introduce them, but first, let's please all stand for the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Now you guys stay here, turn around. Just turn around so they can see your face this time. I'm going to introduce you. All right, thank you so much, President Jackson, members of the board, and Dr. Scribner. It's truly an honor to be here with you today. These four young ladies are part of our Pearls with a Purpose mentoring group, and we have here Jennifer Gomez, Vanessa Brown, Maria Arellano, and Teresa Davila. If I may just share a little bit about our group here. This group is a mentoring group for girls. It was started by Miss Law, one of our third grade teachers. Miss Law, if you'll stand. And Greenbrier is part of the Beacon's principles in the equity work with Miss Freed's division, and this was inspired by our work with the equity team. It's aimed at girls understanding their identity and their culture and just all that they can be. So we're very proud of them, and you're going to hear a little bit more from our after-school program, Miss Rachel Eubanks, about this program a little bit later on. We also have our assistant principal and some teachers here. If you would like to stand as well. And again, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Do we have any parents in the audience? Please stand up and let us recognize you and thank you for being present. Thank you for being with us tonight. Clint Bond from the Communications Department will introduce the several recognitions we have this evening. Mr. Bond?
President Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Scribner, our greeters helping us out this evening are from the Naval JROTC unit at Arlington Heights High School, where Sarah Weeks is the principal. If they would stand as I call their names, we'll thank them all when I conclude. Cadet Lieutenant Commander Lee, who's the unit commanding officer. Cadet Command Master Chief Petty Officer Malagon, who is the Unit Command Master Chief, Cadet Chief Petty Officer Larios, Cadet Chief Petty Officer Cajero, Cadet Petty Officer First Class Sanders, Cadet Petty Officer First Class Camarena, Cadet Petty Officer First Class Peck, Cadet Seaman Mock, Cadet Seaman Raleigh Hernandez, and U.S. Navy Commander Lance Fisher, retired, is the senior instructor. Let's give them a round of applause, please. This evening, our family engagement recognition comes to us from the Leadership Academy at Mitchell Boulevard. Would members of the PTO who are present please stand? Marcus Peoples, Jasmine Robinson, Richie Upchurch, Maria Gonzalez, Imelda Garcia, and Raquel Montes de Chavez are a dynamic and dedicated group of parents who go above and beyond to support their school, teachers, the community, and student success. Collectively, they have volunteered over 480 hours during the 2017-18 school year and are trending to do even better this year. Some of the activities and support the PTO provides includes Battle of the Books, Spelling Bee trophies, 5th grade promotion and end of the year celebration awards, Teacher Appreciation Week, Field Day, Family Nights, House Celebration incentives, which are designed to teach scholars character and leadership skills, guest speakers for family nights, and snacks for content camps. When asked to sum up what the PTO means to the staff and students, Principal Eileen Martina had this to say: "Our PTO is an integral part of our school. With their support, the school has been able to celebrate students' successes and sponsor events throughout the year. The amount of dedication they have shown is truly amazing." We are honored as Family Communications Specialist LaTanya Copeland honors the PTO from Leadership Academy at Mitchell Boulevard with certificates of appreciation for family engagement. Thank you very much. As everyone arrived this evening, you should have received this pamphlet honoring our heritage on the American Indian Education Program in the Fort Worth ISD. This evening, we will recognize November as National American Indian Heritage Month in the Fort Worth ISD. If you'll remember, at the September 23rd meeting, we noted that the 83rd Texas Legislature proclaimed with the adoption of House Bill 174 that the last Friday in September is American Indian Heritage Day. The Fort Worth ISD American Indian Education Program is designed to provide academic support and cultural education for identified students attending our schools. Our goal is to ensure each American Indian student successfully completes high school prepared for higher learning. Our program provides for a parent advisory committee, experiences outside the classroom through field trips, a summer cultural camp, as well as summer reading program featuring Native authors. Currently, the Fort Worth ISD has approximately 400 students, some of whom have joined us this evening, along with their parents and other members of the American Indian community. And if they would all rise so we could recognize them too, please. President Jackson, this concludes this portion of the recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Next, we have two additional recognitions submitted by Trustee Jacinto Ramos. Mr. Ramos?
Thank you, President Jackson, and I really am grateful for your support as the president of our board to honor my request, which actually comes on behalf of community members, parents, and community leaders. So first, with 4A as Hispanic Heritage Committee, I'll ask Ms. Jody and Rosalinda to come forward. As you come forward, I'll briefly tell you how this came about. As this board has been very public and vocal about honoring Ms. Pauline Gasca Valenciano and the legacy that she left behind in civic engagement and community involvement and her passion for education, Jody formed, or community members, including Jody, formed what they call the Inaugural Hispanic Heritage History Project. And I'll ask that they brief us on that, because on that great evening, Dr. Scribner stood to represent the district. And so then Jody reached back out and said, we'd love to come to the board meeting to make a presentation. So that's how we've gotten to this point. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Scribner. My name is Rosalinda Martinez. I'm a proud parent and longtime volunteer for Fort Worth ISD. I am also a committee member of the Hispanic Heritage History Project. And on behalf of the Hispanic History Project Committee, I would like to thank the Fort Worth ISD and acknowledge Dr. Scribner and Mr. Ramos for all their support. And we have a small token of appreciation we would like to hand to you this evening.
On behalf of the committee, we want to thank you for the Fort Worth ISD support. It was a partnership of 32 community organizations, including the City of Fort Worth. And tonight, we're also going to be recognizing the after-school care program. We wanted to do it a community event. We involved everybody, but we also want to include students so we can remember our history, where our roots are, and how a lot of our forefathers and mothers came forward and blazed the trails for us. And part of the inaugural project, we had a pilot project of a essay contest and an art contest, and we had sponsors for those materials to create the art contest, and then we're going to be recognizing that group. And we wanted to start small and grow big with the years, and we started with Greenbrier Elementary, which happens to be the granddaughter of Pauline Gasca Valenciano. And so she's going to be presenting at this time and recognize the students that were selected as the winners. And her name is Rachel Eubanks.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. Behind me is the Greenbrier Elementary's, our after-school program. This is our Pearls for Purpose group that we brought here today. And this is a girls' club that we have formed with the help of Mrs. Law. She's a teacher at Greenbrier Elementary. And the focus of this group is to really empower our young women and, to let them know that they can be developers and leaders and not just an employee, but business owners and creators, starting here, here in Fort Worth. So I would like to recognize Jennifer Gomez. She won first place for the writing essay contest. So Jennifer, you come up. Jennifer is one of our smartest students, always gets the first one to get homework done, so we were very, very pleased with her. The art project. This is, we did a Sugar Skull project, and all of the donations to create this project were donated by the Wellman Warehouse. And the Wellman project, if you want to stand up, Vanessa, this is Vanessa Barker. She is one of the CEOs and founders of the Wellman Project, and that's a Fort Worth-based nonprofit organization that donates supplies and anything an educator here in the Fort Worth and the surrounding area needs to have a functioning, successful program. And then next, I would like to recognize Teresa Davila. She is the winner of the essay contest. She is a great writer, and we were very pleased with her writing entry, so congratulations for that. And then we would like to also recognize Greenbrier Elementary. I am the site supervisor for the Fort Worth After School program, and the partnership that we've had with this school has been amazing, and I was very fortunate and lucky to have my school participate in this pilot project with the Fort Worth Library. So we would like to recognize Greenbrier Elementary, and on behalf of Mrs. Montalvo, we would like to give you this plaque that we can hang in our lobby. So there we go.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And before you leave, Jody, we have a framed part of the proclamation for you before you leave. Thank you. Second, 4B is JP Elders volleyball and football seasons. At this point, I'd like to call up first Arnold Maldonado and Eunice Ibarra. This is a first time that I have been asked for an agenda item and recognition by parents in District 1 related to something that I'm going to call a blind spot for me. A blind spot for me is that I cannot be everywhere and see everything, and knowing that I do have my last child in Fort Worth Independent School District at JP Elder, I kept hearing about all these awesome things that were happening in volleyball and in the 8th grade volleyball and 7th grade football. And it took a parent reaching out to fill me in, parents reaching me out and filling me in on what has been happening, how special this was. So as unique it may be that we have a 7th grade football, 8th grade volleyball, and while we recognize that Fort Worth Isd students are doing great things district-wide, I thought it was really cool that parents reached out and asked for this. So I'd like to give you a moment to speak on why this is so special and why you felt compelled to reach out for this one.
Well, I want to say thank you to everybody for letting me do this, especially to Mr. Ramos. The thing I like about football, I love football. I play football, and my son, he's been playing football for youth years, and now he's playing for the school, and he's been doing so great. Before he started playing football, he was not doing great, but this time that he's doing football, he's doing great. And I went to all the games for JP Elder, and man, those boys, they played the hardest, even in the rain, cold, and everything. But they played the hardest to be in a level where they went 8-0. That never happens before in JP Elder, because I went to JP Elder. My wife went to JP Elder, so I know how hard it is for them to be
That's awesome.
in that position that they went through. And with all my heart, boys, y'all did a good season, and I don't know what else to say, but thank you, Mr. Ramos, for this chance. Something to say?
Thank you to the coaches also. I mean, they push these boys, they push them. I know it because my son, I'm sorry, but Hector, you're always sick. I had to struggle with him, but his coaches, yes, the coaches, they push these boys to the limit, and they did it. 8-0, I mean, that's something to be very proud of for these boys and for these coaches. And thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much. So what I did is a wise man taught me how to triangulate. I went by and visited with leadership at the campus, and if the coaches would mind coming up to speak on, in addition to what the parents have brought forth, that we'll start with football and then move over to 8th grade volleyball. Young ladies, I hear some amazing things about you as well.
All right, I'm Coach Irves. I have the pleasure of serving as a football coach at JP Elder Middle School, and I would like to first start off by thanking Mr. and Mrs. Maldonado for reaching out to Mr. Ramos and bringing these boys before you today. Stand tall, stand up. All right. Guys, you're here. You're here because you won. All right, you're here because you won. You're here because you won on the field, but you're also here because you won in the classroom.
That's right.
All right? These young men worked so hard this year. They were met with many challenges. I challenge them every day to go in that classroom and to be the best version of themselves each and every day. They're here because they won on the field and off the field. I cannot be more proud of these young men. As Mr. Maldonado pointed out, this is the very first time that JP Elder has gone undefeated in football. There are some great things happening on this campus, and these guys are a part of it. And I thank you guys so much for giving us the opportunity to bring these young men before you, because they do deserve to be celebrated. And I thank God for having the opportunity to serve them in that coaching capacity. But I don't do it alone. I would like to acknowledge our great coaching staff. They're probably behind those young men. But if you guys just stand up one at a time. Coach Kip, Coach Kitchen, Coach Blackman, Coach Wright. Phenomenal job this year, man. We do serve, but we serve in order to teach these young men how to lead. And they're learning the right way. And just being a part of it is a blessing. And I thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to stand before you today and congratulate and recognize them.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we have Coach Johnson, and I heard wonderful things not only about the season, but also their academic performance. Coach?
Yes, I promise I'm not a player. I know it might look like that, but I promise I'm not a player. I just want to say thank you for having us here tonight. First off, girls, we had a great season. I want everybody to stand up.
All right.
So you can be recognized. Before I get started, I wanted to note that many of these girls did play on the 7th grade A team last year. for Coach Valle. Coach Valle, will you stand up? They too went undefeated last year in volleyball, so that's a great thing in its own. This season, we did go 7-2 in district, and that placed us in the gold bracket at the city championships. Overall season, we went 13-3. We fought hard, not only on the court, like Coach Irv said, but also in the classroom. We had 100% passing rate this semester, and that's something to applaud in its own. We really preach the student aspect of student athlete, and these girls did a phenomenal job of it. All of the coaches, we're on them all year about being the best they can be. Again, not only on the court, but in the classroom and in the community. So I just want to thank them. It is my first year coaching for the 8th grade A team, and I was blessed with an amazing team. They've taught me a lot about being a coach at such a young age, and taught me ways on how I can improve for next year, and I'm very proud of all of them. Not only do I want to thank the girls, but I want to thank all the parents who came and helped out at the games. We have very, very supportive parents. The parents that are very supportive, most of them are here now, so if you were here, Linnell's mom. Okay. It's awesome being able to look in the stands and seeing it packed out like it's a national championship game. The girls get excited, the coaches get excited. So we've had a great support system at the school. Mr. Schulte, thank you for all your support, letting us girls and letting us coaches take the girls to the TCU volleyball game this year. I know the girls have a great time on that field trip, and it's a great opportunity just to see what life outside of middle school looks like and the things that you can accomplish if you continue to fight hard on the court and in the classroom. So again, girls, thank you for an amazing season. I will not forget you, okay? But you're only starting a legacy now, and we'll continue to grow as a program. But thank you for getting it started. I want to also Coach Harper and Coach Reyes and Coach Valle. Again, we work together. It's not just me coaching, it's all of us together. We're a unit in here.
Thank you, Coach.
So again, thank you for everything.
Thank you. And before you all leave, I want to meet you out over here because Fort Worth Isd has a small token, a special gift for you before you leave JP Elder football and volleyball. And my closing piece and statement on this is obviously I think the cameras and everyone who's watching and everyone in the audience, the narrative is changing, and it's continued to change in our district. And for me to be made aware of Mr. Maldonado's request of honoring middle school, I have become accustomed to recognizing high school and other groups, but there's so many beautiful things happening in Fort Worth Independent School District. Again, Mr. Maldonado, as a parent, from a parent to a parent, thank you so much for having brought this to our attention. And coaches, thank you for everything. Mr. Schultze, you're a rock star, sir. I appreciate everything you're doing on that campus.
This concludes our scheduled recognitions. We'll take a very short recess so our guests may depart if they so choose. Remember, it's very cold, so if you stay, we all stay warm, and I can take off this jacket. The second part of that is I know some board members want to take pictures with people, so please hang out just for a moment. Welcome back, and we will now move on to the Fort Worth ISD Financial Transparency Module. Dr. Scribner, do you have a few words to say before Ms. Shiro begins her presentation?
Thank you very much, President Jackson. Yes, tonight's presentation will highlight our new financial module that we've recently implemented. We believe in a financial system that's organized, that's accessible, one that provides data in a user-friendly and meaningful way. And in Fort Worth ISD, I've been to many conferences and listened to many of my colleagues, superintendents across the state. We're fortunate to have one of the best finance teams in Texas. I'm proud to say that the district has a tenured history of superior financial ratings from the Texas Education Agency. We have outstanding credit rating scores from our rating agencies that monitor districts' fiscal opportunities. And we're characterized as a low-risk auditee with a healthy fund balance. We believe the adoption of this transparency module will continue that trend, and at this time I'd like to introduce our Chief Financial Officer, Elsie Shiro. Elsie.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Scribner, President Jackson, and members of the board. This evening, we wanted to share with you another milestone that the Business and Finance Department has achieved by developing a module that is accessible from the district's website that allows the public to view financial reports and to download financial information regarding the district's business operations, which is easily accessible and user-friendly. The two major staff members who've played a major role in this development is David Johnson, who is our Senior Officer of Budget and Finance, and Tandy Smith, who is our Analytical Data Specialist who works in the Budget Department. She has spent countless hours ensuring that the module is up and operational, that the data is accurate, and that it is user-friendly to our end users. And so I will turn it over to Mr. Johnson to proceed.
Thank you. Tandy has worked with various Fort Worth ISD departments in the design and implementation of this initiative over the past several months. The information available on this website offers taxpayers and interested individuals insight into the financial operations of the district, as well as the ability to view expenditures in all aspects of operation. Fort Worth ISD has gone above and beyond normal transparency by offering interested individuals the unique opportunity to access data, updated financial data from our finance software by way of this online portal. And now I'll turn it over to Tandy.
Thank you. And so we're going to talk about financial transparency, the Texas Comptroller's Transparency Stars program. I'm going to overview our transparency presence, and then I'll wrap it up with any questions that you may have. So our statement is this: Fort Worth ISD is committed to financial transparency. We embrace the values of accountability and transparency and view them as important tenets of ethical leadership as well as legal compliance. We believe an open government is an accountable government. But what really does financial transparency mean? So if we had to give you a textbook definition, it would be this. It's defined as the timely, meaningful, and reliable disclosures of all financial information. But I like the way the Texas Comptroller Office puts it very simply. We're just outlining where the money comes from and where the money goes. But why be transparent? There are many reasons to do so. We've outlined two for your consideration here. So we want to be able to demonstrate our fiscal stewardship. We're spending our financial resources in effective and innovative ways to educate all of our students here at Fort Worth ISD. We also want to increase public trust and confidence. We want to demonstrate to our stakeholders that we're doing exactly what we said we would do. We are spending the money exactly the way that we said we would spend it. So the Texas Comptroller Office, they recognize local entities like us that open our books, that make our financial information clear and available to our users. So they're looking at, they have a list of items that we need to have on our website, including things like our budget data, our CAFA, our adopted budget for the last 5 fiscal years. But they're looking at 3 main things. They're looking at accessibility. How easy is it, can I get to your information? So I get to your website, how many clicks does it take me before I find it? They consider accessible being 3 clicks. You can access our data within 2. They're also looking at meaningful. So I found your data. How meaningful is it? Are we using natural language? Does it make sense to me? someone that's not in the financial business. And then lastly, they're looking at user-friendly. Can you find the information easily? Can I navigate to what I need to get to quickly? So there are 5 transparency stars that are out there. Only 3 of them apply to Fort Worth ISD. So we have the traditional finances, contracts and procurement, and debt obligation. We are very proud because at the beginning of this year in February, we were awarded the traditional finances transparency star. We're joining 60 other ISDs, including our peers such as Dallas, Austin, and Katy. And so we've talked about what our financial statement is. I just want to talk about what our presence is. So we have a financial transparency webpage. I'll show you that here in a second. We also have a transparency portal that houses 4 years of financial data. We also have our email address where we invite you, if you have any questions or concerns, to send us an email. So I talked about accessibility earlier, right? 2 clicks or less. So as soon as you get to our homepage, you can click on departments, and then right there under financial transparency, you'll click that, and that'll take you to our landing page. So this is our landing page. And then what we've done, we talked about being user-friendly, so we have a consistent look on each page. So on the left, we are looking here, and that's going to be your budget document. And when you click that, it's going to take you to all of the budget documents that we house on our site. You'll find things like our adopted budgets or our official budget book. Again, at the bottom of every one of our page, we have our email address. Consistency throughout. It helps with being user-friendly. And it allows you to reach out to us if you have a question, if there's something that you're looking for that you don't see there. So if you click on your financial documents, it'll take you to that webpage where, again, you will see all of the financial documents that we have housed, things such as our CAFA or our check register, you'll be able to access here. If you click on the home page, what we have is the transparency portal. And this is amazing because it really has 4 years of financial data. And we're talking about down to the actual check, down to the purchase. I heard our executive director for purchasing the other day said that we had 35,000 purchase orders per year. You multiply that by 4, and that's the amount of data that we have that's out there and accessible for you to consume. So when you click on that link, it's going to take you to our transparency portal, and this is the landing page. And what you're looking at here is an overview of the district. And the tool allows you to click and drill down to the actual expense. Right, so you have access to all of that information. Again, we have our email address here. If you have a question while you're there, we're happy to answer it. And then if you click on the expenditure overview here, that allows you to start doing that digging, to start interrogating the question, start interrogating the data and asking it questions. So again, this is a high-level presentation of our portal. Elsie has asked that we come back in front of you at a later date to do a deeper dive, but we certainly wanted to present to you and let you know that it's there.
Fort Worth ISD is committed to financial transparency. The opportunity to view financial information in this level of detail is unparalleled.
And as you've seen here, this module is phenomenal. Reports can be run. You can look at costs that we are actually spending in the classroom. And Mr. Robbins raised a question to me the other day regarding how our district compares to other districts in our spending in the classroom versus overall expenditures. And so, the latest budget reports that what I can see is that when you really drill down on what we're spending in the classroom and we compare it to our 8 large urbans, we're the 3rd highest spender in the classroom. And when you look at the rest of our spending, everything else that we operate with, we're about the 3rd lowest. And so what is really nice about this is that all of our taxpayers, all of you, anybody who is interested can go into this portal and to search and find anything that they're looking for. And so we're here available. If anyone wants one-on-one, if anybody in the public wants additional information and how to utilize this to the fullest, we're here for that purpose, to serve our community and all of you. So thank you for your attention, and we'll take any questions.
Dr. Sims.
I'd just like to say thank you for that report. It was very efficient. Dr. Scribner mentioned that we were financially transparency. I'd like to say that we are financially efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sims. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. It was a great presentation. I'd love to see this, and I'm pleased that the public will be able to get to this. I'm not sure how we can determine if people get to the place they need to in 3 clicks, but I'm glad to hear about that offline. 2 clicks. 2 clicks, 3 clicks. I mean, it'll probably take me 12, but anyway, thank you all so much. Moving on to number 6 on the agenda, Lone Star Governance, Annual State of the District Report. Dr. Scribner, are you ready to give the report?
I am. This is our annual report, and I wanted to thank you, President Jackson, for this opportunity, Board of Trustees, and the Fort Worth school community. There has been a great deal of change in the city of Fort Worth and in Fort Worth ISD over many decades. There's been great change in our district as well, particularly in the past couple years. Tonight we will review several of our accomplishments over the past year, as well as many challenges that still remain going forward. But first, let's start with the big picture.
This is Fort Worth, the way we see it every day. But let's take the 1,000-foot view, and you'll see that this is also Fort Worth ISD. Our 148 campuses, schools in every neighborhood, are preparing students for success in college and for tomorrow's workforce. So, no matter who you are, what you do, where you live, you belong here. Fort Worth ISD is a good place to be for a lot of good reasons. But don't just take our word for it. The Texas Education Agency says our most recent academic gains are among the best. The TEA named us one of 2 top districts in Texas in year-to-year positive growth in academic achievement. Our gains were across the board, including substantial increases in the percentage of students reading on grade level. And we've cut the number of campuses rated improvement required in half. Among those moving up to meeting the standard were 5 schools that were reconstituted as leadership academies. After investing time, top talent, and money at the campuses, including a $1 million gift from the Rainwater Charitable Trust, the accountability gains at all 5 campuses were in double digits. There's also our nationally recognized commitment to equity.
And I'm
the
calling
Fort
this
Worth
meeting
ISD Board of Education received the 2018 CUBE Award for Urban School Excellence from the Council of Urban Boards of Education, where educational equity is one of the core measures. Then there's our scholarship dollars. The class of 2018 earned a record-setting $102.6 million in merit scholarships and grant offers. That's up from $36 million just 3 years ago. At the front end of the education journey, our 4,000 lidless learners are getting a great start in Fort Worth ISD pre-K. And their parents got to register them online instead of in-line, as our district moved to an all-online registration process. There's also this space right here, our new I Am Terrell Academy for STEM and VPA. From day one, this campus was buzzing with creative energy in labs, an incredible makerspace, and on the visual and performing arts side, in studios, practice rooms, and a world-class performance hall. And talk about engaging. The Cowan Humanities Academy at I Am Terrell makes us all want to go back to school.
What does he say there?
As construction on I Am Terrell was wrapping up, a new capital improvement program was already in high gear. Thanks to you, the voters, our record-setting 2017 bond is transforming learning spaces district-wide. The Fort Worth community is also all in for elementary literacy with Read Fort Worth, which is doing an outstanding job of aligning its partners, resources, and strategies to support our district's 100 by 25 literacy initiative to get all third graders reading on grade level by the year 2025. Led by Mayor Price and Matt Rose, it's a perfect example of collective impact for bigger and quicker results, especially where they're needed most. As we've said before, we can't do it without you. You belong here.
So we're encouraged to know that we're on the right track. Just a week ago, the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce hosted the State of Public Education here in Fort Worth. We were fortunate to have Commissioner Morath, Mayor Betsy Price, and the new Executive Director of Read Fort Worth, Anel Mercado, also participate on the panel. Commissioner Morath identified Fort Worth ISD as one of the top Texas urban districts in year-to-year positive gains. He highlighted this board's decision to invest in teachers and reiterated his support of our work with the system of great schools, an effort to ensure high-quality educational opportunity in every corner of the city. Mayor Betsy Price declared her support of our school finance reform work to ensure that the state is in fact paying its fair share for public schools. And Anel Mercado is the new executive director, as I stated, her commitment to work alongside our district as we strive to achieve our 100 by 25 goal. Our mission is to prepare all students for success in college, career, and community leadership. This mission is supported by Lone Star Governance. And our board goals, as Lone Star Governance dictates, the board's goals are the district's goals, and those are the same goals in my performance evaluation. But let's take a closer look at not only these goals, but our achievement in the areas of early literacy, middle years math, and college and career readiness. A year ago, we received a different message from Commissioner Morath about possible closure of our schools, and it may be an appointment of a board of managers. But we're no longer having that conversation. As you heard, with an 8% growth, Fort Worth ISD, one of two top districts in Texas. 42% of our schools are A and B schools. And while we still have improvement required schools, those schools have decreased considerably. 4 years ago, we had 24. That number has been cut in half to 11. Next year, we're on our way to single digits and on our way to 0 as we eradicate IR schools in Fort Worth. In early literacy, we all know that third grade reading is a necessary foundation for learning in education. Third grade reading is not only a challenge here in Fort Worth, it's a national dilemma. In fact, third grade reading correlates with college completion percentage in almost every major city in America. From LA to New York, from Chicago to Miami, and here in Fort Worth, Texas, a community's college completion percentage almost always mirrors their third grade reading percentage. In fact, in Fort Worth, Texas, only 32% of the adults in our city hold a post-secondary degree. We know third grade is important because that's the point at which students stop learning how to read and begin reading to learn. And so if a student is not reading in the third grade every year that goes by, unless they have intervention and support and special support, they begin to slide backwards. In fact, third grade reading predicts success basically in every other content area, whether it be middle school, elementary school, middle school, or high school. We're fortunate to grow from 29% 4 years ago to 35% today and on our way to 100% by 2025. Middle years math. We know that failure in freshman algebra also correlates with high school dropout rates. 2 years ago, our passage rate was 77%. We grew to 83% and were able to sustain that growth this past year as well. That's an important benchmark in our middle grades math goal. And finally, the strongest performance of our 3 goals was in college and career readiness. We not only met, but we exceeded targets in 3 of 4 areas correlated with college and career readiness. Our post-secondary readiness has increased to 63%, still not high enough. We need to do better. And quite frankly, college and career readiness, this is our district's final exam. A high school diploma is not enough anymore. 66%, two-thirds of the jobs in North Texas that earn a family-sustaining wage require at least a two-year degree or an industry certification, a license, and many a four-year degree. So we want to make sure our students are crescendoing up so that they graduate high school and are prepared for life beyond high school. Our leadership academies. A year ago, we reopened 5 Fort Worth ISD schools as leadership academies: John T. White, Maud Logan, Como Elementary, Mitchell Boulevard Elementary School, and Forest Oak Middle School. Our STAR results showed double-digit improvements at all 5 campuses, with Maud Logan and John T. White showing the greatest improvements. Had those two campuses not excelled in accountability testing this year, they would have been slated for closure. Before we took this deliberate action, Maud Logan was underperforming for 6 consecutive years. John T. White, from the moment it opened 5 years ago, both of those schools and all others experienced double-digit gains, and in the what-if scenario, each one of those schools, including John T. White and Logan, would have received a letter grade of B, and one school of the 5 received a 79. So we're going to continue the upward trajectory there as well. We know what works, and we also know that our students, they never were the problem. Students may not be starting the educational race at the educational starting line in every zip code in Fort Worth, but we know what they need. They need high-quality teachers and more time on task. When we met 3 years ago, our graduating seniors, they were leaving money on the table. $36 million in merit scholarships. That number is now $102 million today. And how did we do that? By working with our community, working with principals, working with teachers, with counselors, working with parents in English and in Spanish. We're able to access the resources that our students so richly deserve. In fact, that number is going to continue to grow. This year, we initiated the Fafsa Initiative, where every single senior in Fort Worth ISD will now complete an application for financial aid, for merit scholarships, and for state and federal grants. Fort Worth ISD offers a robust portfolio of pathways designed to prepare for success in college, career, and community leadership. These are our highest achieving schools and our highest achieving programs. In fact, this is the edge of competition in our district. This past Friday and Saturday, the Choices Expo was the best attended ever. In fact, since the weekend, we've received 1,800 online applications, including 300 from students who currently are attending charters, private schools, or surrounding districts. If we're going to address our enrollment challenges, it's going to be with quality, with excellence, and with equity. Other ways in which we help students prepare for college: dual credit enrollment. Fort Worth ISD has partnerships with Tarrant County College, with Texas Wesleyan, and a new partnership with the University of Texas at Austin On-Ramps program, which serves 2,000 students. Students enrolled in these programs, in any of these courses, are earning college credit while still in high school. And for our students, many of whom come from low-income families and difficult circumstances, 85% of our students now live at or below the federal poverty line. It's essential that we provide them opportunity in every corner of the city. And for those high school students who can earn dual enrollment while they're in high school, that is something that we're going to double down on in the years to come. CTE. Vocational, used to be called vocational, now career and technical education. Fort Worth has more than 18,000 students enrolled in CTE in grades 7 through 12. And that number has grown by 10% over last year. Fort Worth ISD offers career pathways focused on the needs of industry. We are in conversations right now, particularly here in the northern part of Fort Worth, in the Alliance Corridor, talking to those companies. What kind of high-skill employees do you need? And we want to backwards map and build our programs for the jobs of the future. These are high school students who are filling high-skill jobs and high-wage jobs. We have an opportunity to break the cycle of poverty in many of our families in the community. With regard to our community support, one of the biggest initiatives that we've started now is at the early literacy level. We are building a Fort Worth Promise opportunity for middle and high school students as well, where their college dreams will be supported. But Read Fort Worth at the elementary and third grade level, and from birth to third grade, continues to grow and evolve as we take this collective impact strategy to the next level. Recently, our community came together with Read Fort Worth in winning the Reliant Challenge. Took home a $100,000 ground prize to support our 100 by 25 initiative. During the past year, we're sticking with it. We continued to expand the Fort Worth ISD learning model, where teachers are trained to become not the sage on stage, the teacher in front of the classroom, but rather engage with students, become designers and facilitators in the classroom, while students themselves experience the opportunity to challenge, to research and create, to communicate, and then reflect and grow. That is the instructional model of the future, and we are adopting it here in Fort Worth ISD. A prime example, as you saw in the video, of a specialized learning is IM Terrell Academy for STEM and VPA. It is truly the crown jewel of the 2013 Capital Improvement Program. State-of-the-art academy for STEM and visual and performing arts. Students from both science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and VPA from both disciplines come together to receive instruction in the Cowan Humanities Program, the core curriculum, humanities curriculum, specialization in visual performing arts, specialization in STEM. That makes IM Terrell Academy unique, not only in the state of Texas, but in the entire country. It is an example of both quality and diversity, with a freshman class that represents every 25 middle schools in Fort Worth ISD. There was some concern that IM Terrell would only serve one part of town, but is serving the entire community, 25 middle schools, another example of excellence and equity. And speaking of our commitment to equity, the board adopted an equity policy and strategies. Fort Worth ISD is a leader, not only here in Fort Worth, but across Texas and across the nation in equity policy and strategies. We've established a racial equity committee chaired by Ms. Christine Moss, Trustee Moss. Our board received the 2018 Council of Urban Boards of Education Award for Urban School Excellence. And this spring, for the first time in our history, we'll have a new student holiday, the Cesar Chavez Dolores Huerta Day. It's on the calendar this year. We established that it's the Monday prior to March 31st, which is Cesar Chavez's birthday. And as the day will be a day of honoring the labor and civil rights leaders in the Latino community and beyond. And with regard to racial equity, this month, our Beyond Diversity facilitators will begin working with our speech pathologists, with our assistant principals, teachers, counselors, with our campus monitors and support staff in order to spread our message and our value of equity across Fort Worth ISD. We've got a lot of work to do. This is hard work, but we need to stick with it and be committed to it. Equity and opportunity also affects our youngest learners and must start at the earliest years. This fall, we increased the number of pre-K seats filled, 5,000 pre-K seats, while simultaneously debuting our online registration. Because we know in Fort Worth ISD, if you want a college and career-ready high school graduate, you need a kindergarten-ready preschooler. We want to make sure that we are, again, crescendoing the opportunities for our student as they enter the next level. Under the direction of our early learning department, we've also released a countdown to kindergarten. This booklet in English and Spanish, Cuenta Regresiva para Kinder, helps parents to get their children ready for school from the hospital, starting at birth on to 0 to 3 and 3 and 4-year-old programs for preschool. Record-setting $750 million bond election passed at the highest rate that night. The voters approved this bond package, a sign that our community wants to invest in the future workforce by supporting us to improve our schools. Fort Worth knows, as go the schools, so goes the city. And as we told voters, these funds will provide modern learning environments at every Fort Worth high school, upgrading high school athletics, fine arts, and libraries, updating the infrastructure at our historic campuses. And quick start projects are already moving forward at each and every one of our comprehensive high schools. We do this with the guiding principle that instruction drives construction. Our long-range facilities master plan, chaired by Mr. Jacinto Ramos, we plan to bring a proposal, our staff is working on it right now, to bring a proposal to that committee that will allow students the option of high-quality choice within each neighborhood. A K-12 STEM pathway in every pyramid. A K-12 bilingual English-Spanish pathway in every pyramid. A district-wide, we met with Montessori parents, a district-wide K-12 Montessori and applied learning pathway, and a future bond. If it's true that instruction drives construction, then planning and preparation for future bonds must take place immediately with a long-range plan that includes also elementary and middle schools. Talking about the future, it is my goal also to expand bilingual and biliteracy pathways across the district each year over the next several years. We already know that 85% of our elementaries support either a two-way or one-way dual language program. Dual language must extend into the middle schools and eventually into the high schools. After all, 39,000 students in Fort Worth ISD, 45% of our students come from homes where the primary language is Spanish. And parents and community across our district, English-speaking and Spanish-speaking, tell me that they want 100% of our students to be bilingual. I hear that in every community in our city. In our ever-changing global society, Fort Worth ISD, with this asset, is perfectly poised to be a marquee district for bilingualism and biliteracy. As is said in Spanish, el que habla dos idiomas cuenta por dos. He or she who speaks two languages counts double. And as we become a global society and with the global economy, we want to make sure our students are prepared for success in college, career, and community leadership. In fact, we must market and recruit to students, families, and especially educators. We have to recruit bilingual educators. The video that you saw earlier, entitled You Belong Here, is already being rewritten and will be reproduced in Spanish as a recruiting tool entitled Aquí perteneces, you belong here. Tonight's report concludes with a topic that remains of utmost importance to us all: the safety and security of our students, employees, and visitors in Fort Worth ISD. Within the past year, we hired a full-time director of safety and security with a law enforcement background. In fact, a former assistant chief of police for Fort Worth PD. In conjunction with the Fort Worth Police Department, our district has conducted a complete analysis of the current safety procedures and recommendations for both the district and Fort Worth PD. Police now have the ability to have real-time access to our school cameras at police headquarters. So if something, God forbid, ever happened, they could hit the video screen and see inside of our schools, inside of our hallways, and determine where the threat might be. In addition to that, we're working with the police department's cybersecurity unit. In the past year, we've been able to quickly identify online and social media threats with equal speed to determine the veracity of such threats. This protocol even includes home visits where appropriate. So if a student puts something threatening on social media and it's reported to us, or the police catch it, we have the capacity to identify that student and police will visit the home. That has taken place on a regular basis. In fact, it was implemented as recently as this past weekend. In an effort to foster not only a culture of safety among adults, we also want to foster a culture of safety among students. We have implemented the Avoid, Deny, Defend protocol. Our nurses have been trained to respond to traumatic episodes with the Stop the Bleed curriculum, and we have active control locks and cameras now functional at every campus. We also have an incident command team, which consists of district-wide representation and district-wide responsibility, who prepare for, mitigate, respond to, and help us recover from all kinds of emergencies, from weather emergencies to even the most tragic of situations. We are a district on the rise, and we must stay the course with clear focus, tight alignment on our three goals: early literacy, middle years mathematics, and college and career preparedness and military preparedness. We can maintain and grow our culture of equity because we know that ability exists across Fort Worth ISD. But unfortunately, historically, opportunity has not. And we want to build opportunity and choice in every neighborhood. In order to do this, we must maintain stability. Financial stability, as Elsie pointed out, and also stability in governance. Because we know that student outcomes are in fact changing because of this board's commitment and focus on the right things. I remain optimistic about our ability to overcome obstacles and continue on our upward trajectory. And President Jackson, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Scribner. Ms. Needham?
Thank you, President Jackson. Dr. Scribner, that's a wonderful report, very encouraging. I'm thrilled to see that you want to have everyone bilingual. I want to ask, have we found the 9 Spanish teachers that we were short?
We have not. Recruiting for bilingual teachers and recruiting for Spanish world language teachers, it remains a challenge. So we need to be much more aggressive and much more proactive moving forward.
Can they work up some kind of a plan to, I mean, we don't have the teachers to teach it.
Right.
We can't achieve it. And I know Ms. Moss wants everyone to speak Spanish too, that isn't born speaking Spanish, and I'm thrilled that you're going to have it in every pyramid. But we just got to provide the funds, the stipends, the extra. It used to be we didn't have science teachers. Now we just, if we need Spanish teachers, we've really got to work at it and pay them extra.
Absolutely. We have a batch graduating at the end of this semester. We're recruiting them to fill those current vacancies in this budget. But certainly, moving forward, this is going to take a strategic plan. This is going to take aggressive budgeting. This is going to take recruiting, and we're already talking about ramping up. Certainly, right now, we have bilingual programs at the elementary. Other than the World Languages Institute, we want to replicate that success across the city. We want to grow into the middle schools and then beyond. But we have to do this intelligently, and it's going to need to be resourced.
A number of years ago, we went to Spain and got 20 odd teachers. Maybe we could look at something unusual, like whether we just go to Mexico or
Puerto Rico is also an area where folks are looking for work. So, yeah, there's an opportunity there as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very exciting
Thank
report.
you.
Thank you, Trustee Needham. Trustee Paz?
Thank you, President Jackson, and thank you, Dr. Scribner. This was a great report. I love to hear and see all of the progress that we are making in Fort Worth ISD. And I really appreciate the focus that you have put on our governance work and our equity work, which is specifically what I'd like to talk about right now. I think that we are making a lot of good strides in both areas. I'll start with our governance work because it's shortest. I do have concerns that we as a board are falling off track with our commitment to Lone Star governance and commitment to governance in general. You know, we have several things that we had planned over the summer, specifically a community meeting that wasn't able to happen for whatever reason. It would have been a 2-day training that our board would go through with members of the community, which is one of the requirements of Lone Star governance, so that we can be good advocates for what our role is and help people within the community understand the role of a board. But specifically, especially now that our midterms are over and we do have elections coming up, and was just in the paper, we've got 2 board members who are retiring, and it's important to make sure that the people who will be taking those seats understand the commitment that they are stepping into. So I would really like to see us, and that's more for us as a board, to renew that commitment to Lone Star governance. And I know that the TEA is going to have, from what I understand, kind of a Lone Star Governance 2.0 that we'll be asked to go through after the beginning of the year. So before we get to 2.0, I feel like we need to get 1.0 right. And then our racial equity work. And I was actually going to address this later on in the meeting. I was going to ask to pull our minutes for a separate vote, because we put our minutes on the board agenda with a very specific purpose. That is so everyone on the school board understands the work that is being done by our racial equity committee, so that we're being very transparent with the work, and we have a continued dialogue as a board around the work that we are doing with racial equity. We have not had, we haven't had much of that dialogue on this dais in a long time. And I know we have, from time to time, we'll have small discussions here and there with some of the reports that we give, and we're talking about restorative practices and discipline, but I worry that we are not, that we're getting away from being intentional, hyper intentional about continuing the dialogue that was initiated back in February of 2017. In February 2017, this board updated our policy AE Local, which is our educational philosophy. And it defines all of the things that we as a board believe, and that is what sets the vision and the direction for the way that this district is governed. We added significant language pertaining to racial equity, specifically racial equity. And I would like to, and I'm gonna say me, but I've also spoken to my 3 colleagues who are also on the Racial Equity Committee, Mr. Ramos, Mrs. Moss, and Mr. Robbins. And we would like to have a special meeting specifically for the purpose of discussing the implementation of our racial equity policy, and so that we can ask questions like, how are our goals that we have through Lone Star governance aligned with our racial equity work? 20 months later, how is this philosophy being implemented across the system? We hear a lot of Sherry's equity work. And my I statement, I'm going to flip my lid if I ever hear another person give a report to this board and say Sherry's equity work, because this is not Sherry's equity work, or Christine's, or Cinto's, or Ashley's, or Norman's. It is this district's racial equity work. And what kind of gains are we're looking at the data regularly and on all of the different areas, but we don't always get it broken down by student groups. And it is important to look at the student groups, because we can make a lot of gains with children. We have a lot of room in Fort Worth ISD to make gains with children who come from a lot of privilege. But how are the students among different student groups performing? And how can we do better about drilling down into that work? And then also, what policy updates need to be made to align the rest of our policies with our educational philosophy, policy AE Local? So I'm not going to go on all night because there are other people that want to talk. But that's, I would like to have that meeting preferably by the end of the year. I know we have a lot coming up, but this is important and probably, in my opinion, the most important thing that we're working on right now.
Trustee Christine Moss.
Thank you, President Jackson. I would like to say thank you to Ms. Ashley Paz for bringing that forth. We attended a workshop at Council of Great City Schools, and they were discussing the governance plan. And one of the things I want us to revisit is the community commitment that the community piece that we committed to, but somehow it fell off the radar. And if we could go back and see, because the only way we could reach that particular goal was that we were to go to the community and have the meetings, but since we didn't, I'm not sure we're going to be able to reach the goal before the end of the year.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thanks to the board for their comments. We're moving on to public comment. At this time, let me remind you that because of restrictions by the Texas Open Meetings Act, board members may not engage in a verbal exchange about a subject that has not been posted. We will listen and take notes, but the board is prohibited from responding to any inquiries made during a board meeting on any topic not posted on this agenda. However, the board may reply with 1, a statement of specific factual information given in response to the inquiry, 2, recitation of existing policy in response to the inquiry, or 3, direct the person to visit with staff about the issue. While the board listens to concerns of a general nature and issues of common and individual concern, this board will not hear complaints about specific individual employees or public officers during the public comment session. Speakers, please refrain from mentioning names of individual employees or public officers during your comments. Any employee, parent, or other member of the public is asked to comply with the appropriate grievance policy to have a complaint heard pursuant to the applicable board policy. In accordance with Board Policy BED Local, speakers have a 3-minute time limit, and we ask that you follow this rule. Furthermore, a speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another speaker. Delegations of 5 or more persons shall appoint 1 speaker to present their views before the board with the time not to exceed 5 minutes. First speaker is Dr. Carla Morton. Second speaker will be Mr. Rodney Wade.
Hello, my name is Dr. Carla Morton, and I helped create and am serving on as Vice President for Legislative Affairs for the Fort Worth Isd Special Education Pta. My 10-year-old son attends Tanglewood Elementary School and has received special education services since he was 3 years old. I'm also currently running for the District 5 position on this board. Last month, a special education student was forgotten on a Fort Worth ISD school bus for an entire day. Luckily, the child was not seriously injured, and the individuals directly responsible for the oversight resigned. While some may feel an adequate conclusion was reached, I want to make sure that appropriate steps are taken to address the systemic weaknesses that allowed it to occur in the first place. I work in a children's hospital. My colleagues and I are conscientious in our work because, as in a case like this situation, mistakes can have life-altering consequences. However, when humans are involved, errors will inevitably happen. Our previous approach in medicine was to identify and punish the responsible individuals when mistakes occurred. However, we have come to realize that a punitive approach does not solve the problem. Indeed, while one person may be at fault, punishing an individual without changing the system only perpetuates the problem rather than solving it. Therefore, I implore the district to honestly and openly evaluate current procedures so that systemic weaknesses can be fixed. Simply sweeping this incident under the rug and hoping for the best will inevitably result in a similar situation occurring in the future, with potentially deadly consequences. Fort Worth ISD is filled with truly wonderful teachers and staff who view the safety of our children as their top priority. However, as we move forward, our Special Education PTA will expect to hear how our district will work to ensure the safety of our children across all school environments. Thank you.
Thank you. Rodney Wade. And our last speaker will be Jason Amon.
Good evening. My name is Rodney Wade. I am president of the Fort Worth ISD Special Education PTA. I'm also chair of the Fort Worth ISD Special Education Advisory Committee, and I'm a parent of a child receiving special education services. Last spring, the Special Education PTA was formed when a group of parents and teachers had a desire to help make special ed better for our kids. Since then, I've met dozens of kids, parents, and teachers and asked about their experiences here at Fort Worth ISD. I wish that the stories I heard were positive, but overwhelmingly, they are not. Parents tell me that their kids are not academically challenged, facilities and events are not accessible. I hear stories about kids being excluded from the general education population and that they are being needlessly isolated into self-contained classrooms. Special ed teachers tell me they need help and resources, and they can't even get substitutes because no one wants to work in a special ed classroom. Diagnosticians tell me they don't feel comfortable offering all of the services they think a child needs because they know resources are limited. Schools are not helping parents understand their rights or navigate this ridiculous process we have to go through to get the services we need for our children. In many cases, we aren't even told what services our kids are entitled to. Rather, we are told what services the school is able to offer. Parents have little confidence that our kids are protected from bullying, that they are safe, or that they are valued as much as other kids. One parent told me she carpools special ed students to and from school because the bus driver said he couldn't protect them from other students. Another parent told me her daughter's teachers wouldn't let her play with the other kids because the playground isn't wheelchair accessible, and the teachers didn't like to see her crawl around in the dirt. Now she plays on a concrete pad in the corner of the playground, separated from the other kids. You might be wondering why parents aren't here every meeting speaking up about these things. It's because we are exhausted. On top of the role of regular parents, some of us have kids who aren't mobile, some are medically fragile, some need help doing even the smallest of tasks. Then we have therapy, trips to the doctor or the hospital, the trips to the school to drop off clean clothes and discuss behavioral problems. We have other kids too, perhaps a spouse, a job, a lawn. Occasionally they need attention too. Many of our more challenging kids can't be dropped off at the neighbor's house so that we can be here. And when we can't be here or at school or on the bus, we rely on each of you to help us make sure our kids are safe, well-educated, and treated with dignity, respect, and value. To be clear, everyone I've met in this district cares a great deal for our kids, and I know there are success stories I don't have time to tell. The district employees do what they do because they care, and they overwhelmingly do a great job. These issues are not a failure of human resources. They are a systemic failure, and by continuing to do what we've always done, we've created a moral failure. These failures must be countered with bold leadership, systemic change, and yes, with money. We have a lot of work to do, but this is important work we are committed to doing. We hope you will help us. We can do better. Our kids deserve better. Thank you for your time.
Good to go?
You're good to go.
Hi there. My name is Jason Naiman. I am Rodney's husband, the parent of a child with special needs in this district. I'm also a former teacher and a current attorney. I'm not here to talk about my kid tonight because I know how to advocate for him. What I want to talk to you about are all of the other kids whose parents aren't as resourceful. About that boy on the bus, the reason he resonates with me is because he has become a symbol of the myriad students in this district who are overlooked. It's not just one boy on a bus. You had a specific policy and procedure in place to prevent exactly this. And the people who were responsible were just going through the motions. It's an example of the systematic marginalization of children with disabilities, and I'm going to give you some others as well. People just going through the motion reminds me of the report cards that go home to kids in special education. Many of them get an 85 in every subject, every time, no matter how much or how little they learn? Is it too much to ask that they be given actual assignments, that those assignments be graded, that the grades be averaged and sent home to us every 6 weeks? Is that too much? Dr. Scribner, the district's initiative is that 100% of third grade students are going to read on level. And I want to know, what about the ones for whom that is beyond the realm of human possibilities? I don't begrudge you all of the success in that report. It's great. I'm a huge fan of yours, all right? But when you tell me 100% of students, every student, all students, I am standing right here in front of you and telling you that I feel invisible too. You remove whole categories of children from general education and sequester them into special education, self-contained classrooms. It perpetuates a culture where they are out of sight and out of mind. 28 years after the passage of the ADA, you have schools with one accessible entrance. You diminish the dignity of those kids in wheelchairs when you make them go around the back of the building rather than let them come in through the front door with everyone else. What if there's a fire by that exit? What if there's a shooter by that exit? Once again, you have a policy and a plan. I don't deny this. The problem is that it falls apart under the slightest scrutiny. Do you see how all of this creates a culture in which students with special needs become invisible? I believe that Dr. Scribner is the right person to lead this district in a new direction with special education. Mr. Carroll has demonstrated a sincere willingness and ability.
Please don't use names of individuals.
I thought it was okay if we were
Thank you.
complimenting. A sincere willingness and ability to work with us. My first ask is simple. Let this administration know that these issues are important to you. Let them know that you expect better. Let them know that you export different. Time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now recess and reconvene in the board conference room.
I'm alive.
accordance with the open meetings law, the board opened this meeting at 5:30 PM in the boardroom with the quorum present. Recessed open session, the boardroom is now reconvened at 7:12 PM in open session in the board conference room with the quorum present. As board president, I'm making the following statement in accordance with board policy, BBFA local. This is a reminder to each board member of the legal conflict of interest requirements and disclosure requirements you may have for matters under consideration on the agenda for this meeting. If required by law, board members shall recuse themselves from all discussion and shall abstain from voting on any matter pertaining to such a disclosure. Are there any questions regarding consent agenda items? Trustee Robbins.
Yes, on item 10J, I'd like to have my name included as an attendee at the Facilities Master Planning Committee meeting, and going forward, I'll make sure I always sign something when I go to these things. Thank you.
Somebody just told me today that you were there, and they mentioned how appreciative they were for you to be there. Anybody else have anything? I don't know. I don't have it.
I think we have a quick correction, a typographical correction.
Yes, President Jackson, it's just B1, it's the approval of the purchase of those 2 boilers. The fund code is, we did a misspell, a wrong number on the fund code, it's 685 versus 682, it's still CIP. I just wanted to make sure the fund code is accurate.
So for the record, the fund code is CIP, the 685?
Yes,
Versus 682.
Faye, that's on consent.
Yeah.
That's on consent, so you can do that internally?
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Good.
you. Anybody else? Okay, this concludes our discussion of agenda items. We will now go into executive session.
we want people to know that Fort Worth is a destination district. All of our schools that have a Go Seal program of choice
do that online without.
are represented here today. And so what they do is they come out and our families and our parents and our schools, they set up their tables. Our parents get to come around and check out all the different programs, all the way from elementary to high school, from Montessori to early college. And they get to ask questions and make their informed decision.
It's like a chance for them to see what I like. We do a little bit of coding.
Crime scene investigation.
Make your dream happen. Does that sound good?
So the purpose of Expo is to show our families the myriad of choices that are available here in Fort Worth ISD.
Even though she has her mindset on one school, I do want her to learn about the other schools and what they have to offer.
So some of the main choices that we have for our parents when it comes to the campuses, do they want to go into culinary? Do they want to be in a STEM program? Do they want to participate in fine arts? There's plenty of choices for them to come and experience, and they have to choose the one that's right for their child.
She's been already looking for colleges, and all these expos help her out to get the information that she wants.
We were ranked #1 in SAT scores.
Choice is important to us here in Fort Worth ISD. We want to highlight the various programs to the students.
We're Western Hills, and we offer the International Baccalaureate program.
And this is the best way to do it. They can come interact with the teachers.
We are a STEM and Visual and Performing Arts Academy.
At the same time, they're able to also submit their application here. Basically, it's a one-stop shop.
Good. It's good because you don't have to travel to all these different schools.
As our school district goes, so goes Fort Worth.
Oh yeah, when a little package comes in the mail, I put it on the calendar and we're going to be here.
Thank you so much for coming.
Who's excited?
Hold the check, okay?
Here we go.
Congratulations!
We are very excited to win the $100,000 from Reliant Gives. It's a great opportunity for us to identify those programs that work and take them to scale.
And each person can vote one time per day, and they were able to win the $100,000 grants. There were two other recipients. One earned $10,000 and the other $20,000.
It's a big deal. $100,000 is a huge deal for us.
What crayon is this?
And Read Fort Worth will put it to great work, and it'll just help drive forward our initiative of 100 by 2025.
Everybody mobilizing every potential resource. Go from last place to first place. It really means that this community knows how to rally around what's important.
Read Fort Worth is now focused on maximizing our success and identifying what works, investing in that so it can spread across the district.
$100,000 is all about funding the strategies that we know work for the success of our kids.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 15th Annual Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce State of Education Luncheon. We're so glad to have every one of you here today. I'm Allison Baumeister, Principal in Charge TAG, CLA Fort Worth, and the Chairman of the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. Did you know that the first public schools in Fort Worth were opened in 1882? That just also happened to be the same year that the Fort Worth Chamber was started, and it was known as the Board of Trade. That all happened less than 10 years after our city was incorporated. And as Fort Worth grew, the education system grew with it. It is now the Fort Worth Independent School District and is so woven into our community. How strong is the Fort Worth ISD today? What is its vision for its future? And how can the Fort Worth Chamber help? That's why we're all here today. And we'll start with the big picture.
This is Fort Worth, the way we see it every day. But let's take the 1,000-foot view, and you'll see that this is also Fort Worth ISD. Our 148 campuses, schools in every neighborhood, are preparing students for success in college and for tomorrow's workforce. So, no matter who you are, what you do, where you live, you belong here. Fort Worth ISD is a good place to be for a lot of good reasons. But don't just take our word for it. The Texas Education Agency says our most recent academic gains are among the best. The TEA named us one of 2 top districts in Texas in year-to-year positive growth in academic achievement. Our gains were across the board, including substantial increases in the percentage of students reading on grade level. And we've cut the number of campuses rated improvement required in half. Among those moving up to meeting the standard were 5 schools that were reconstituted as leadership academies. After investing time, top talent, and money at the campuses, including a $1 million gift from the Rainwater Charitable Trust, the accountability gains at all 5 campuses were in double digits. There's also our nationally recognized commitment to equity.
And I'm
The
calling
Fort
this
Worth
meeting-
ISD Board of Education received the 2018 CUBE Award for Urban School Excellence from the Council of Urban Boards of Education, where educational equity is one of the core measures. Then there's our scholarship dollars. The class of 2018 earned a record-setting $102.6 million in merit scholarships and grant offers. That's up from $36 million just 3 years ago. At the front end of the education journey, our 4,000 littlest learners are getting a great start in Fort Worth ISD pre-K.
How are you?
And their parents got to register them online instead of in-line, as our district moved to an all-online registration process. There's also this space right here, our new I Am Terrell Academy for STEM and VPA. From day one, this campus was buzzing with creative energy in labs, an incredible makerspace, and on the visual and performing arts side, in studios, practice rooms, and a world-class performance hall. And talk about engaging. The Cowan Humanities Academy at I Am Terrell makes us all want to go back to school.
What does he say there?
As construction on I Am Terrell was wrapping up, a new capital improvement program was already in high gear. Thanks to you, the voters, our record-setting 2017 bond is transforming learning spaces district-wide. The Fort Worth community is also all in for elementary literacy with Read Fort Worth, which is doing an outstanding job of aligning its partners, resources, and strategies to support our district's 100 by 25 literacy initiative to get all third graders reading on grade level by the year 2025. Led by Mayor Price and Matt Rose, it's a perfect example of collective impact for bigger and quicker results, especially where they're needed most. As we've said before, we can't do it without you. You belong here.
Well, as the video said, you belong here today. Ladies and gentlemen, the Superintendent of Fort Worth ISD, Dr. Kent P. Scribner.
Thank you very much, Allison, and welcome, Fort Worth school community. It is important to note that we could not accomplish anything that you saw outlined in that video without the courage, stability, and leadership of the Fort Worth ISD Board of Education. Our board is engaged throughout the Fort Worth community, serving this community in many ways. Those who are able to be with us today, I'd like to introduce them. They are our president of the board, Toby Jackson. Also with us is Mr. Norman Robbins, and the newest member of our board, Mr. Anael Luevano. Also here is Trustee Christine Moss. I am proud to say that our board, in partnership with the TEA, has adopted a new way of doing business called Lone Star Governance. Our board, through Lone Star Governance, is solely focused on improving student outcomes. Lone Star Governance is founded on the premise that we cannot expect to have a culture in the classroom that doesn't exist in the boardroom. They and I thank you for your support and your belief in public education, and thank you for being here today. You'll notice that on your table, the district's most recent annual report. We are proud to bring this to you each year at this gathering, and we ask that you take it and display it in public spaces in your office. It's entitled You Belong Here, and it tells the story of our district in very human terms. Inside the annual report is a card also entitled You Belong Here. It's brief,
and it's factual. And it's important information we want you to share with others about Fort Worth ISD and its place in our community. Take this card and share it. Additional copies are available on the tables just outside this room. We all know that the quality of public education and the economic future of our community are inextricably linked. I was recently asked, how do you move the needle towards success in a large urban school district with all the challenges that come with serving low-income or language minority students? And I responded that the only way I know how to be a superintendent is through a collective impact lens, by engaging all sectors of the community around a common goal. It's work that we all must do together. We're a school district on the rise. Our Gold Seal programs and schools of choice offer outstanding opportunities. That's also true of our career and technical education courses. The success of these programs is essential to the success of Fort Worth and the region. The economy and education, again, are inextricably linked. Our commitment to universal pre-K, pre-kindergarten, is also an investment in the future, the best investment that we can make. And our 100 by 25 initiative, our collaboration with Reed Fort Worth, heralding a groundbreaking work that we believe will be a model for the rest of the nation. And our mission, our collective mission, is to prepare all students, ALL, all students, for success in college, career, and community leadership. That's important to everyone in this room, I know. And as a result, that's why you belong here today, because you know that your support and investment in Fort Worth ISD will yield benefits to every single member of our community. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Anthony Edwards, the Senior Vice President of Talent Development, Retention, and Attraction for the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. Again, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Dr. Scribner. If you represent an employer of any kind today, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. So keep your hand raised if you have challenges finding quality employees. Okay, so think about that. Think about that. All right, so before I introduce the panelists, I'll provide a brief overview of our strategic plan. Our strategic plan, Fortify, has 4 pillars: business attraction, expansion, and retention, small business and entrepreneur support, advocacy, and talent development, attraction, and retention. In the strategic planning process, we discovered some talent challenges in the Fort Worth region. The Fort Worth region holds just 30% of the jobs in the Metroplex. And the percentage of Fort Worth's adult population with a bachelor's degree is below the national average and below most of our national benchmark cities. And at least 60% of the jobs in 2030 are going to require education beyond high school. And whether you're an educator, a business leader, or community leader, we can all agree that we need to increase the percentage of students that are college and career ready, that are earning industry certifications, enrolling in college, and finishing college. And why does this matter? Improving educational attainment in our community helps your business grow, it attracts new businesses, and helps our community grow because learning changes lives. And at the Chamber, we want to help connect business and education to meet employer needs. We also want to drive the Fort Worth region to be the most thriving and inviting community for all. That's our mission, so that everyone participates in the economic boom happening here. Here are our talent and quality of place goals for our region. Let's increase the population in our region with a college degree or certificate. Let's increase our region's talent supply in targeted industries. Let's increase workforce and affordable housing in our community. And let's decrease the poverty rate together. To achieve these goals and strengthen Fort Worth's talent pipeline, we will execute the following strategies. We'll create industry sector partnerships that allow employers to develop talent solutions and partner with educators in developing talent. will bring leaders together to eliminate barriers to college completion and career success, including poverty, child care, housing, and transportation. We'll market Fort Worth as a talent destination and market resources and best practices in talent development, attraction, and retention. So if you're ready to help strengthen Fort Worth's talent pipeline, here's how you can get involved. Participate in an industry sector partnership. Chamber members, please join a Chamber Talent Committee or task force. Hire an intern and expand the number of local campuses where you recruit. Investigate ways to increase educational attainment in your workforce. And partner with ISDs, community colleges, and universities on curriculum and student projects. So you can contact me at the email address and number on the screen to get started, and I'm expecting my inbox to be full by this afternoon. And finally, Tarrant County Education Progress Reports will be available on our site very soon. Now let's convene the panel. All right, so today, joining Dr. Scribner, we have Mayor Betsy Price, who's made support for public education one of the pillars of our city. Mayor Price also serves along with Dr. Scribner with BNSF Chairman Matt Rose and leaders of Read Fort Worth, a community-wide movement to improve early literacy in support of Fort Worth ISD's 100 by 25 goal. So let's thank Mayor Price. Commissioner Mike Morath, who leads the Texas Education Agency, the TEA, and oversees pre-kindergarten through pre-kindergarten through high school education for more than 5 million students across our state. Commissioner Morath. Anel Mercado, the new Executive Director of Read Fort Worth. Ms. Mercado has deep experience in leading successful collective impact initiatives across the country. Anel Mercado. First question is for Commissioner Morath. Thank you for joining us. Here in Fort Worth, we understand the close link between education and the economy. Could you tell us what Fort Worth ISD and other large districts around the state are doing to achieve this goal?
It's really a huge number of activities, but what I see in Fort Worth and what I see in a few of other of our major districts that are seeing significant progress is a focus on a few narrow areas. We know that the most important factor that drives student outcomes is the quality of the teacher in the classroom. And if you are not relentlessly focused on supporting teachers, on helping support effective instructional environments, virtually everything else that we do will not yield fruits. And in Fort Worth, you do see a very relentless focus on instructional quality, on curricular quality, in terms of how the students are supported. You also have seen what I would say is a mindset shift in the way that Fort Worth, from the governing board on down, views the role of the organization. We all, I think, have this particular view of what school is, informed by the fact that generally all of us went to school. And we think of it as books and teachers and classrooms and desks. But that's really not what education is. Education is about achieving outcomes for students. It's about helping ensure that our young people, when they graduate through the system, through this 13-year process, that they are prepared to be citizens in our republic, that they are equipped for the American dream, that they are educated in a broad sense. And when you recognize that your role as a school system is not necessarily narrowly focused on core processes of what it looks like today, but instead you think about outcomes orientations. What is the quickest way for us as an organization to achieve those outcomes for kids, regardless of who is delivering it, regardless of how it is being delivered? And this mindset of how can we achieve great schools for all of our kids, an A campus environment, a high-performing campus environment, regardless of how it's structured, regardless of how it's organized. You've seen it, Fort Worth embrace that philosophical approach and that orientation to say, is this working? Is it delivering outcomes for kids? And how do we adjust on it in terms of service delivery? It creates much more rapid innovation, much more rapid iteration in terms of what school looks like for kids. And that's particularly important if you have an environment that is not necessarily high performing at present. How can you get it to high performing very quickly? And that ethos, I think, permeates Fort Worth and many of our school systems to try to, again, relentlessly focus on outcomes improvements for kids.
And as a follow-up to that, I know you all in the Texas Education Agency are working collaboratively with the Workforce Commission and with the Higher Education Coordinating Board. Can you talk about kind of the new model of how they're working together?
Yeah, so the governor convened us last year as part of a tri-agency workforce commission, where you think of TWC, the Workforce Commission, the Higher Ed Coordinating Board, and the TEA, to create sort of an aligned ecosystem to support students in a more effective way than happens in the past. And a lot of that can seem esoteric pretty quickly, but let me make it very tangible. If the 12th grade year for a student is going to prom and homecoming and football and otherwise a good social experience, why do we have that at all? Instead, we need to re-engineer the high school experience so that last bit of high school is as effectively connected to career, as effectively connected to college as is possible. So you think about aligned workforce opportunities for students while they're in high school, 9 through 12. You think about aligned collegiate curricular resources that they have access to in 12th grade. If they are not sweating their tail off by the time they graduate 12th grade, we have failed to launch them into modern America. And you are seeing that kind of re-engineering aspect happen in schools all over the state, and we're trying to support that work through our tri-agency cooperation between Higher Ed and the Workforce Commission at the agency.
Thank you. Mayor Price, you're a big city mayor who recognizes the important role that education plays in our community. So what's changed in Fort Worth in recent years, and where would you like to see this go?
I've always been a big proponent of education, and I think that the mayor's office has the strongest bully pulpit probably in the city. And if we don't come along beside our superintendent, our school board, and partner with them, the city isn't going to succeed. I think what's changed is, you saw the statistics, you gave them, we only 30% college graduates. The demand for a different workforce, a truly well-educated workforce, is getting higher by the day, and we have to look at that. Every child deserves a quality education. Doesn't matter where their zip code is or where they live. And so the city has to be a partner working on that. We started Read Fort Worth for just that reason, and the business community has to join with us. But we simply have to recruit talented people, and we never can import enough education to cover the workforce. We have to grow our own. And Fort Worth ISD is our largest partner in growing those. And if we're going to grow them, then the whole community has to stand up and say, education is our #1 priority. As mayor, you realize it's all about economic development, it's about crime, it's about poverty levels, it's about neighborhoods that are struggling, it's about the community health. There isn't an area that we deal with in the city that education doesn't touch. If we start young and grow our own, in 18 years, because you said a 13-year education or 12, it's really an 18-year education because it's cradle up for these kids. And it's a changed workforce, it's a changed focus. We need more people that are technically oriented. We need people that have great people skills. And the entrepreneur spirit is growing dramatically. And for cities to be healthy, you have to be encouraging that talent to stay here. The universities are turning out thousands of kids, Texas Wesleyan, soon Tarleton, TCU, UTA. We want them to stay here in Fort Worth. Many of them are Fort Worth kids, and so we've got to do everything we can to partner with Kent and the school board to make this happen. And I think Read Fort Worth is the tip of the iceberg on the partnerships. But just as importantly, and you all know what I'm going to say, every one of you in this audience has to come alongside and make education your #1 priority if this city's going to succeed. And it will succeed because Fort Worth always does.
Thank you. Superintendent Scribner, everyone knows about this early literacy initiative, and for good reason. We know how important it is. But we hear a lot about third grade reading, but what are you doing for middle and high school students to make sure they're career and college ready?
Well, that's a great question, and to the mayor's point, this entire conversation is about cradle through career. Third grade reading is one of the board's 3 goals, and we're fortunate through our new governance structure that the board goals are the district goals, are my performance evaluation goals. Though we're focused on 3 things: early literacy, middle years math as defined by success in freshman algebra, and college and career preparedness. The way we crescendo, as the commissioner said, a student's experience on beyond high school is through schools of choice, programs of choice, small specialized academic programs, some of them separate, standalone, like the I.M. Terrell Academy, others embedded into the large comprehensive high school. Our career and technical education programs, we have 18,000 students in our CTE programs, and those are programs preparing students for jobs that exist now, but also for jobs of the future. 2/3 of the kids who are in CTE programs are going to start jobs after college or after a certification or licensure program that don't exist today. So the world is continuing to change, and we need to backwards map with industry and have them help us understand where we need to focus. And we're partnering there with Texas Wesleyan, with TCC on dual credit enrollment, and also a new program on ramps. We have 2,300 students working with the University of Texas also getting dual credit. So it's important that we focus not only on the babies, on birth to 3rd grade, but being successful there will ensure success, I believe, in the middle years and then through college and career preparedness. It's a continuum.
And then related to that, I know you all had a record year in terms of seniors earning scholarships for college. I know there's a FAFSA completion, that's a financial aid application. How can our community support that campaign?
Well, absolutely. So when we all met 3 years ago and I came to Fort Worth, it was clear to me that our students were leaving a lot of money on the table. Students that year earned $36 million in scholarships. With the FAFSA focus, with business leaders helping our students apply for scholarships with their one-page personal statement. A lot of students don't have the social capital and the parents at home who can help them edit those and write those. That's a great role for business leaders. We've gone from $36 million in merit scholarships 3 years ago to $102 million today.
Right.
And we're probably still leaving some money on the table. So the work is not done. Our students, our high school students, middle school students, elementary school students are not problems to be solved. Rather, they are assets to be invested in. This is exactly the right group to do that. You belong here.
Thank you. Ms. Mercado, we're hearing a lot about collective impact. So what does a successful collective impact look like?
Yes, thank you, and I'm honored to be here. I've had the opportunity to become a student of collective impact over the past 5 years, and we have in our community our own set of unique challenges and strengths. We're not alone, though, and there are 70 partnerships like ours across the country who are using the collective impact focused on education, and it is a framework, one that we're going to take to the next level over the next few years, and it is around that common vision, bringing together the business community, our nonprofit partners, bringing the faith community into the fold, and really looking at how do we circle around our education system, coming alongside the school district. And data is going to be a key piece to this. So taking a deeper dive into the data, I love the quote, it's a flashlight, not a hammer. It is going to show us what's working, what we could potentially scale, and where the areas of focus are going to be. It's also about aligning everything we're doing so that when we know our community partners are doing great work, and how is that aligned to the impact that we're looking for on student outcomes and what's happening in the classroom, and then making sure that we're building the relationships and that trust that we need to be able to move this work forward, and building the team up in Reed Fort Worth that's going to take us to the next level. But I think there's a lot that we can learn from some of the other partnerships across the country, and more importantly, we have expertise right here in our community that we want to harness and be able to use to move the work forward.
Thank you. So Commissioner Morath, we have a legislative session coming up in January. What do you...
Do we have to do that?
Yeah, we do. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was coming.
Well, fortunately, you get to be on the executive side and not the legislative side. But what do you see as the major issues in large urban districts as the session convenes?
Well, I mean, perhaps the topic that is going to have the most conversation in Austin has already begun. The legislature passed a provision to launch a school finance commission, and those conversations have been happening for 6 months or more now, and they're discussing a whole host of very substantive changes to the school finance system. And I would say that for folks who have watched this for years and years, this is unlike, I think, any prior attempt, because typically the nature of these conversations is let's figure out how we can pass out money in a slightly different way to increase equity or whatnot. But that's part of the conversation, but it's also focused on, are there structural incentives that can be embedded in the school finance system that drive outcomes in a very substantial way. You may have heard, for example, tied to this, that the governor wants to ensure that we create a pathway that's supported through the school finance system so that teachers in Texas have the opportunity to make 6 figures. This is something I think that would be fundamentally transformational to public education, but it has to be done obviously in a thoughtful way. And there are similar kinds of structural overhauls being discussed, I think, at the School Finance Commission. So that's going to occupy, I think, a huge set of attention at the legislature this session. And my role is simply to support members of the legislature as they're evaluating different policy options to try to provide some sense of how that will impact the system one way or another.
So as a follow to that, Dr. Scribner, from the local perspective, I guess maybe what challenges does the current system face, and maybe what are some things that you would like to see going forward?
Well, I know one thing that the commissioner and I certainly agree upon, and that's putting money where the outcomes are achieving success. So identifying those programs that work and investing in those. Our leadership academies are an outgrowth of the Isd Initiative that took place when Commissioner Morath was the trustee. We identified our top teachers through a scientific process, a statistical analysis of which teachers had the most value add in their classrooms, invited them to go to our most challenged schools, some of those 3, 4, and 5, and 1, 6 years of underperformance, and identifying those top teachers, incentivizing them with a $10,000 stipend, but they earned the stipend. Mm-hmm. The school day did not end at 3 o'clock. The school day ends at 4 o'clock with an extra hour of reading and mathematics embedded into the school day, and students don't go home at 4 o'clock. They stay for enrichment, they stay for after-school tutoring, athletics, fine arts, are served dinner, and then go home at 6 p.m. because students who are not starting the educational race at the educational starting line need 2 things: more time on task, and most importantly, as the commissioner said, a high-quality teacher and a high-quality principal. Thank you.
So, Mayor Price, you've gone all in for early literacy and the support of early childhood initiatives. So, based on your experience with the National League of Cities, what really distinguishes Fort Worth from other cities in this work?
Well, first let me comment on the legislative issue. I'm delighted to see that you're going to talk them into focusing on paying teachers more, because that's critical.
Yes.
We're going to get there. And the other thing is, we have to get the state to own up to their piece of what they owe in education. It can't fall back on the backs of local taxpayers. We've shifted, and I remember, Mike, I used to be the tax assessor in the 17 years since I've been in this business. We've shifted the burden from 60% state, 40% local, to 60% local and 40% state. And that's got to change. That's kind of one of my bully pulpit items, and it's got to change. Judge Whitley would kill me if I didn't say that anyway. But early learning truly is a strong focus in Fort Worth, and Fort Worth is very lucky to have the Early Learning Alliance. It's recognized statewide. Kids are going to spend, their brain is going to be 85% developed by the time they're 5 years old. So cradle to pre-K, to early pre-K, those first few years are critical. Our Early Learning Alliance, our philanthropic partners, our business communities are really beginning to catch on that we have to provide quality child care, not just child care. Judy's here from Workforce Solutions. Judge Whitley and I and Judge Williams, we have, what are we now, $70 million? $70 million that comes through Workforce Solutions for child care. And until recently, there was very little strings on it that said this has to be quality. We have major areas in our city where we don't have quality child care. Imagine a young family with 2 kids, and they're spending $1,000 minimum to generally $2,000 or more for their child care for the first 5 years of their child's life. And oftentimes that's not the quality. But if we don't change, and we're very fortunate in Fort Worth that we're beginning Lena Pope Home, the Early Learning Alliance are making huge strides. But if we don't change that pipeline, we will never get to where our 3rd grade literacy should be and where middle school math has to be. National League of Cities you ask about, I chair the National League of Cities Education Committee. It's not just Fort Worth folks that are struggling with education, it's every major city in the nation. And we are in better shape than an awful lot of them. But everyone's realizing it's a major turn. At National League of Cities, we're focusing on early childhood. We're focusing on business engagement as one of our strong things. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has been engaged with us to try to see where can we plug the business community in to really make education our focus.
Thank you. Superintendent Scrivener, we saw a new accountability measure system being unveiled this year for public schools, including an A through F rating, I'm seeing the smiles, for districts that will eventually extend to the individual campuses. Some districts like it, others are pushed back. Where do you stand?
Well, a couple things. First, I was thrilled this summer when the commissioner calls you on your cell phone, it's either really good news or really bad news. In fact, I was picking up my wife who was visiting her parents and at the airport and circling looking for a spot, and I saw Mike Morath, and I said, goodness gracious. And answered it, and he said, Fort Worth ISD is one of the top 2 large urbans in the state of Texas in year-to-year academic growth. So, and we still have a long way to go. But A through F, I know a lot of my brother and sister superintendents protest it. I'm fortunate that I experienced, this is my 16th year as a superintendent, I did 13 years in another state. I experienced the state transitioning to A through F. And what I would tell my colleagues is, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. And since it's here to stay, these are the new rules, and it should be. A grading system is nothing more than a communication system, like your performance evaluation at work. All that is the boss communicating to you a message. Very few people know what underperforming means, or met standard, or highly performing, but everybody knows what a D is, and everybody knows what a B is, and everybody knows what an A is. So what's good about that is we can identify those schools that are achieving in spite of the odds. We have two schools in the what if category because the schools didn't receive grade levels, but we can do math and we can guess what their grade level, what their grades would have been. We have 2 schools, Bonnie Bray Elementary and Worth Heights Elementary, both with more than 90% poverty, more than 90% free and reduced are letter grade A schools. So if they can do it, everybody can do it. Just briefly to wrap it up, what I like about what the commissioner is pushing for is it allows us to leverage success and take it to scale and say, if they can do it with over 90% poverty, everybody can do it.
Right, and related to that innovation, quickly, if you could mention the call for innovative schools and kind of what you're doing there.
Sure, and this relates to what Anel was talking about in terms of common use of data. So again, with TEA as our partner, we've engaged in the System of Great Schools work, where we're looking to identify great seats for every kid in every zip code in every corner of the city. Identifying through a school performance network, those schools that are achieving, they've earned some autonomy. Those in the middle will receive typical support, and those that are struggling, we're going to dive into them from an equity perspective and give them more attention. Additionally, we want to work with our charter partners and look for district charter hybrids, get the best of both worlds. We can bring them in, benefit from our infrastructure, maybe we can benefit a little bit from their autonomy and create a new model in Fort Worth ISD where the district and our board are chartering schools, and we can look at some innovation from a different perspective. We established a new Office of Innovation in partnership with TEA, and we're kind of doing an RFP process, a call for great schools. We don't want to partner with folks who are running charters that are not good for students and families. We want to partner with those that have a track record of success, because all of our all of our students deserve a great school.
Thank you. And I want to just conclude by giving you all a minute to maybe talk about why the community needs to get involved in supporting education. So for your last comments.
We won't be able to do it without the community. I think, I know our Reliant partners are here, and we know we want a big gift. Thanks to the community coming together and voting, and that was taking your phone and voting, but we're talking about taking it to another level, and that is harnessing the expertise that we know exists within the business community and with our partners. And so it really is, let's have some different conversations about what that could look like. It could mean reading with children, but it could mean working at a whole different level. So I really want to have the opportunity to talk about what that could look like as we use the data and we think strategically about where we want to go next. This community is poised for that. I am so excited to be here because of that. We are poised to go to the next level, and it is because all of you and this great community.
I was
In accordance with the open meetings law, the board opened the meeting at 5:30 PM in this boardroom with a quorum present, recessed and reconvened open session in the board conference room, adjourned regular session, convened executive session, adjourned executive session, and now reconvened open session at 8 PM in the boardroom with a quorum present. Do I have a motion accepting consent agenda items? Moved by trustee Paz, seconded by trustee Luébanos. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, let's move to voting. And the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 16 action agenda items, we will take no action on items A, B, and C. Moving to 16D, approval of comprehensive annual financial report for the year ended June 30th, 2018. Do I have a motion, please? Moved by trustee Needham, seconded by trustee Luébanos. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, please move to voting. And the motion passes unanimously. Moving to 17, comments by board members or superintendent on current district activities and announcements. Ms. Paz?
Thank you, President Jackson. 1 week ago, all of my weeks are running together. I had the privilege to travel to Baltimore with Dr. Scribner and Mrs. Moss and Mrs. Sherry Breed and Mr. Sajade Miller for the Council of Great City Schools Fall Conference. It was a great conference. We had 3 presentations with Fort Worth ISD. Dr. Scribner and Mr. Miller presented on their District of Innovation work and our systems of great schools. Mrs. Moss, Mrs. Breed, and I presented on our racial equity work that we've been doing here in Fort Worth ISD. And Dr. Scribner and I, it was just the 2 of us, right? I said it's all running together. Presented on Lone Star governance, and we actually had the opportunity to present, for our presentation to be facilitated by Deputy Commissioner A.J. Crable. So they were all really great presentations. We were able to see a lot of just good work that the council is doing and bring back some really solid resources for the district, which I will be sending out to the board if I haven't already. But among those resources, one of them is an academic KPI, Key Performance Indicators report that compares the performance of Fort Worth ISD in several different academic domains to other large urban districts. So we're actually able to look and see kind of how some of our initiatives are pairing up to some things that other areas are doing. And we have a lot to be proud of. But I'd like to thank Mrs. Moss and Dr. Scribner for coming. The next Council of Great City Schools will be this spring for their legislative conference in Washington, D.C., and I hope that several more of my colleagues will be able to join us. It's going to be a pretty interesting legislative session, so it's a good time to go. Oh, yeah, I talked about that. Yeah.
Thank you, trustee Paz. Trustee Moss.
Thank you, President Jackson. I want to say a few words about our trip to Courageous Conference in Philadelphia. Ms. Breed, Barbara Grover, Ms. Sean, can't remember the last name. Yeah, Sean Lassiter, and Mr. Ramos. We attended Courageous Conference, and it was wonderful. We presented moving your district toward equity transformation. And if I tell you, this was a great show. Barbara Grover killed it. I mean, she was outstanding telling her truth. And the others, Ms. Laster and Ms. Breed, before we completed the workshop, the audience wanted to know our address, the school district, where are you from, and how did you get this done, and who is your superintendent, and it was just so many questions about how we're moving Fort Worth ISD toward equity transformation. And we really should be proud of our Equity and Excellence Department, because everyone across the country, and when I say across the country, heard about Fort Worth ISD, and it's been, I guess, this year, we've been presenting across the country. So Fort Worth ISD is well known across this country for equity transformation within the school system. And so I'm just thankful for all of the participants and for our superintendent. We always talk about our superintendent and how he embraced equity and what he stands for across the district. And so Mr. Cinto Ramos is not here, but he had a workshop scheduled himself about equity. So again, I just want to say thank you to Fort Worth ISD for allowing us to, travel across the country, spreading the word about the transformation that's happening right here in Fort Worth ISD, Texas. Thank you.
And from Fort Worth ISD, Texas, we will adjourn on that note. Thank you.